Hello students, welcome. In this lesson we are going to continue looking at how to study organisms using drawings and biological diagrams. Let us begin by defining our terms. A drawing is an artistic impression or painting of an object or organism. Drawings show lots of details and no knowledge of biology is needed. This means that drawings could be made by any artist who is not necessarily a biologist. A diagram, on the other hand, is a simple but accurate representation of biological information. One does not need to be an artist to be able to make a good diagram. Diagrams are drawn with simple, continuous lines to represent the outline of the organism or part of it or an idea. They are therefore described as line drawings. Biological knowledge is needed when making diagrams in order to decide what to include and what to leave out. A clear, well-labeled and annotated diagram is very useful because it acts as a summary for long and complicated descriptions. It is much easier to draw a diagram than to memorize and keep long descriptions and complicated observations. How then can we make good biological diagrams? The following equipment is needed: a white unlined paper, a sharp pencil, preferably an HB pencil, a pen, a ruler, an eraser, and a pencil sharpener. Drawing is still a very important skill in biology. Drawings help to record data from specimens, and also drawings can highlight the important features of a specimen. Therefore, to make a proper drawing, the following is required. To do: first, observe the organism or part carefully so as to decide what to include, what to leave out, and why. When carrying out an observation, move the specimen around. Do not just concentrate on one part. Observe the general appearance first. Whilst you are observing, increase the magnification to observe more details and reduce the magnification to get a more general view. Use the focusing controls on the microscope to observe at different depths of the specimen. Another thing to note in order to make a good biological diagram is that the drawing should cover a sensible proportion of the paper. Allow sufficient space to the right and left of the diagram for labeling. Therefore, it is necessary to make a large, clear drawing which should occupy at least half a page. It is also necessary to note that you have to draw with clear, continuous lines. Dotted or broken lines are not acceptable because they are not clear. Always use an eraser to rub out any unwanted lines. Another thing to remember when making a good biological diagram is to avoid too much detail. Where detail is to be included, this should be drawn properly. For example, imagine you were asked to draw the diagram of a simple compound leaf. Diagrams A and B represent a simple compound leaf. However, diagram A shows much less detail, is accurate and straight to the point. However, diagram B shows a lot more detail and may not be the best choice in such a case. Another thing to note when making a good biological diagram is to use conventions such as a double line to represent curved surfaces. A final thing to take note of when making good biological diagrams is to avoid shading and coloring. Stippling, hatching, or cross-hatching can be used to mark the difference between parts of a diagram. The diagram below can be described as a good biological diagram of a big cockroach. As can be seen here, the diagram has covered a sensible proportion of the board and it is drawn with clear, continuous lines. It is also accurate and straight to the point, thereby avoiding much detail. Again, the diagram has not been colored and the wings have been differentiated by hatching them. Let's now look at another important point to take note of, which is how to label biological diagrams. Diagrams should always be fully labeled. The labels should be written to the right and left of the drawing. The label line must touch the structure it labels. You must also remember not to write any labels on the drawing. Again, label lines must be drawn using a pencil and a ruler. All labels should be horizontal and should not have arrows at either end. Remember that label lines should not cross over each other. Finally, all diagrams must have a title written beneath. In writing the title, either all the letters must be uppercase letters, or if written otherwise, the title must be underlined. Let us now look at this illustrated diagram of a human skeleton labeled 1 to 22. This diagram has been fully labeled and all the labels have been written to the right of the drawing. It can also be noted that all the label lines touch the structure it is labeling. Again, no labels can be found on the drawing. The label lines are straight, horizontal, and do not have any arrows on either end of the lines, showing that these lines were drawn with a straight ruler and a sharp pencil. Again, as can be seen in this diagram, none of the label lines cross over each other. Finally, the drawing has been made complete with a fully capitalized title beneath it. Let us now look at another important part of making drawings and biological diagrams, which is the chart. Charts are reports presented in the form of tables or diagrams drawn on large sheets of cardboard or paper. The information in tables is presented in rows and columns, as can be seen in the table below. When observation charts are kept on a daily or monthly basis, they represent a nature calendar for the organism in its habitat. From such a calendar, the behavior and habits of organisms in similar habitats at similar times and under similar conditions can be predicted. For your activity for this lesson, make a study of some organisms around you and present your results in the form of a nature calendar. We have come to the end of our lesson. Let's now do a quick review to see what we've learned so far in this lesson. In this lesson, we learned that a biological diagram is a simple, accurate representation of biological information or facts, whereas a drawing is an artistic impression or painting of an object or organism. Diagrams are important in biology because, when properly drawn, they replace long notes and written descriptions. Biological diagrams must therefore be properly made following specific rules. They must be clearly labeled and have a relevant title. In order to see what we've learned so far and to prepare ourselves for our next lesson, please head over to the revision questions that follow. Thanks for your kind attention.